And like, why do we believe being overly busy and overextended is still evidence of productivity, even after post-COVID, where people had a chance to reflect on things a bit more?
Yeah, well, I think the roots of this hurry up culture are very deep. I mean, you can go back to the earliest times of human civilization, and people could feel rushed. I think ultimately, in some ways, it's mortality, right? We have the ultimate deadline. We're all staring that down, and so there's always a sense that time is finite, and I think that can, for human beings in pretty much any culture, reframe and reshape how we see the moment. Yeah. I guess there's always been a sense that we were up against the clock even before there were clocks, right? But the
Yeah.
quantum shift came when we had clocks. And that's what I
Yeah.
found most fascinating in the research I did looking back on our relationship, our tortured, and I would argue toxic relationship with time started when we began measuring time. You could see in those early medieval European towns when they hung clocks in the square for the first time ever, people changed. They began
Mm.
having schedules. They began fretting about falling behind schedules, wasting time. And that phrase, that immortal phrase, time is money, sounds
Mm.
so achingly modern and of the moment in 21st century, but it was actually uttered by Benjamin Franklin 250 years ago, right at the dawn
Mm.
of the industrial era. And I think that's very telling because it's when the first step, I think, was measuring time. And there's an Italian proverb that says, man measures time and time measures man. And I think that gets a little bit of how the tables flip on us. But you layer onto that the industrial era. Suddenly we began to build machines that could allow us to do things faster and faster. So speed became an end in itself, right? It became a good
Mm.
unto itself. It became a virtue. Patience, in some ways, ceased to be a virtue, and impatience replaced it among the seven virtues in the modern world. And then at the same time, as building machines that allowed us to accelerate everything, we linked time, speed with productivity, with wealth, right? So the faster you produced a widget, the more money you made. You could see
Mm.
that in Victorian factories. It became about time clocks and punching. And
Yeah.
if you could break down people's work habits and routines into little chunks like Frederick Taylor did, and
Mm.
then work out how to speed them up, you could make more money. So that was in the workplace, but that then percolated out into everything we do. So that it now has become a kind of cult in the sense that every single thing that we're doing, whether it's making love, raising our children, eating, we feel under immense pressure to optimize it, right? To do it better means to do it faster, right? And then you get into
Yeah.
multitasking where you're not only doing one thing faster, you're doing several things in parallel, which ups the speed ante even higher. And we've just created around that whole paradigm a culture that tells us that slowing down is lazy, that slow is a dirty word. It's a four-letter word.
Yeah.
It's a byword for stupid, lazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
boring, unproductive, all the things nobody wants to be, right? So you put all of that together and you can understand why even when we can feel in our bones that it would be good for us to put on the brakes, even when we're yearning to slow down,
Yeah.
we don't do it because we feel ashamed, we feel guilty, we feel out of sorts, we feel we're going to get left behind, we feel afraid. And I think fear is gripping our throats when it comes to this.
Mm.
And we get stuck in this fast forward approach to life and find it hard. Hard is the key word here, not impossible to
Yeah.
break out.
Yeah.